As face-to-face learning opened up to students last week, many changes have been made to classrooms to ensure students are able to learn effectively while not sacrificing on safety due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
We've kind of explained to teachers that they need to make sure that they social distance their classroom. We tried to limit the number of students in face-to-face classes this year, so that way students and desks can be 6 feet apart as well.
All the desks are at least 6 feet apart and probably a little more. We have a seating chart, so in case someone gets sick, we can do contact tracing. As much as possible, we're going to try to kind of spread out and go into larger spaces, so we won't be in the room as much.
So our students right now are all facing the same direction. They're in rows, all facing the front of the room. So they're not in a semicircle really close together. They're at least 8 feet apart, actually, in our room, so that because our room is big enough, we can do that with the numbers that we have right now.
Unlike in previous years, students will not be allowed to share equipment such as technology amongst each other for instruction.
I think for those students who don't have their own technology, there will be school Chromebooks available. But I think the majority of my students have told me that they'll be bringing their own technology, which is better, really, because then it's more sanitary.
We've copied all of the technique and scales that we want students to use, and they're going to have their own binder. As far as instruments, I've always had enough instruments to where students, even in a normal setting, they just have their own instruments. So the bigger instruments that sometimes are shared at different schools, they are not shared at Heritage, and they will not be shared this year.
While students are getting used to all the new guidelines, even the teachers have to adjust to teaching their classes in a whole new way.
We have to figure out how to teach our virtual students and our face-to-face students simultaneously. It's all going to be happening at once. So that definitely is going to be a big change that, myself and my assistant, Mr. Cannon, we've never really trained for. So we're going to have to get used to it just like the students.
The students who are face-to-face, we'll have to kind of treat them as if they're virtual. For instance, like in our American Studies class, 37 students total and 10 are face-to-face. So the majority of students are virtual, which means that the whole class will be virtual. And the students who are face-to-face will just log on to the computers and get onto the Zoom, even though they're in front of us.
Through all the new changes in procedures, both teachers and APs are committed to making sure everyone is safe on campus.
Well, obviously we want all of our students to feel comfortable, safe, and happy while they're here at Heritage High School. If they're not feeling safe back in a face-to-face environment, they will be allowed to change back to a virtual environment each 9-week grading period. So there'll be a time in October where if they're just not liking the face-to-face environment or not feeling comfortable, they will be able to change back to a virtual at that time.
I'm Sumit Nalavade for Coyote Nation TV.